Lonely Cowboy hired her to cook, but what she did next changed everything. Sam Blackwood had never imagined his life would end up like this. He had always dreamed of owning a sprawling ranch, raising cattle and working the land with his own two hands. But after his wife Emily passed away unexpectedly, his world crumbled. She had been the heart of the ranch, the one who brought warmth and light into his life. Now the ranch felt cold, like a shell of what it once was. Sam couldn't remember the last time he had laughed or felt joy. Every day he rose at dawn, worked hard to tend to the cattle, and made sure everything was in order. But there was no one to share a meal with, no one to talk to after a long day's work. His life had become a routine of work, eat, sleep, repeat. The loneliness weighed on him, though he would never admit it aloud. He wasn't one to show weakness. He had grown up on a ranch, and his father had taught him to be strong, to rely on himself. But after Emily's death, something had changed. The quiet of the ranch was deafening, and the empty rooms echoed with memories that he couldn't escape. The house was too big for just one person, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was slowly sinking into despair. One day, Sam decided he needed help. He couldn't keep up with the chores, the cooking, and the cleaning. He had never been much of a cook, and after Emily's death, meals became something he simply endured, not enjoyed. He posted an ad in the local paper offering a job for someone to cook and help with the housework. He didn't expect much. The town was small, and most people he knew had their own businesses or families to take care of. But he was willing to try. Maybe the company of someone else, even for a little while, would help ease the ache of his loneliness. A few days later, Sam received a response. It was from a young woman named Lily, new to the area looking for work. Her letter was brief, but something about it caught his attention. It didn't sound desperate, just practical, as if she was offering something more than just the bare minimum. Sam was intrigued, and although he didn't know what to expect, he invited her to come to the ranch for an interview. When Lily arrived, Sam was taken aback by her presence. She wasn't what he had expected at all. She was small, with soft brown eyes that seemed to take in everything around her. She had long dark hair that she kept tied back in a neat ponytail, and a quiet confidence about her that made her seem older than her years. Sam had expected someone older, someone perhaps in need of a job out of necessity, but Lily carried herself with grace and ease. She looked like she belonged in the town, though Sam couldn't say why. She greeted Sam with a firm handshake, and after a few minutes of polite conversation, he offered her the job. He had expected her to ask questions about the work, the hours, or the pay, but instead, Lily simply nodded and said, "I'll start tomorrow." Her calm demeanor was reassuring, and Sam found himself strangely relieved. The next morning, Lily arrived at the ranch before Sam had even finished his morning chores. She had brought a basket with her, filled with fresh bread, fruit, and eggs. It was an unexpected gesture, and Sam wasn't sure how to respond. He hadn't had a meal like that in years. Food prepared with care, food that didn't come from a tin can or a quick thrown-together meal. Lily wasted no time. She began cooking right away, setting the kitchen up as if she had lived there for years. Sam watched in silence, unsure of what to make of this woman who seemed so at ease in his home. As she worked, she chatted with him, asking about the ranch, about his life, and about Emily. Sam found himself opening up more than he had intended, talking about his wife in a way he hadn't done in months. He realized with a small shock that he had missed talking about her. It wasn't just the loneliness, it was the connection that he had lost. By midday, Lily had prepared a hearty stew, fresh biscuits, and a salad of greens from her own garden. Sam sat at the table, his mouth watering at the scent of the meal. It was a simple dish, but it tasted like something more. like a reminder of what life could be like again, if only he allowed himself to feel it. As they ate, Sam realized that he hadn't felt this at ease in a long time. He hadn't had a real conversation with someone since Emily passed. After the meal, Lily cleared the table, washing the dishes with a quiet efficiency. Sam lingered in the living room, unsure of what to say. He wasn't used to having someone around, let alone someone who could do the things that Emily once did. But there was something different about Lily. She wasn't just doing chores out of obligation. She was doing them with a purpose, with care. And that made Sam feel something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. The days that followed were much the same. Lily cooked, cleaned, and took care of the ranch. She made it a point to keep Sam company, whether he was working outside or sitting in the living room, lost in his thoughts. She asked him about his childhood, about the things that made him happy, and about the things he wanted to accomplish. She never pushed him, but slowly, Sam began to realize that she was gently nudging him toward something more: a future, a life beyond the grief that had consumed him for so long. By the end of the week, Sam felt a shift in himself. He was no longer just surviving. He was starting to live again. Lily's presence had brought a lightness to the house, a feeling of comfort he hadn't known he missed. She wasn't just a cook or a helper. She was slowly becoming a friend, and maybe even more than that. But Sam didn't allow himself to think too much about what that could mean. He had been alone for so long, and he wasn't sure he was ready for the changes Lily's presence might bring. Still, as he watched her work, listened to her quiet laugh, and tasted her cooking, Sam couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change, something big.
As the days passed, Sam found himself adjusting to a new rhythm in his life.
The ranch no longer felt like the lonely, empty place it had been for so long. Lily's presence brought something fresh, something that he had almost forgotten existed. It wasn't just the meals she prepared, though. They were always delicious and comforting. It was the way she seemed to breathe new life into everything she touched, the way she moved around the ranch with purpose, tending to the small tasks that Sam had ignored for so long, and the way she would ask him about his day, her curiosity genuine and warm. At first, Sam didn't quite know how to respond. He had spent so many years alone, keeping to himself, that he wasn't used to the attention. But Lily's calm, steady nature made it easy for him to open up. Every meal they shared, every moment spent in each other's company, Sam began to feel something that he hadn't felt in years: comfort. One afternoon, after finishing his chores, Sam wandered into the kitchen, where Lily was stirring a pot of something that smelled absolutely divine. She had a way of turning the simplest ingredients into something special. The small kitchen, which had once seemed so cold and empty, now felt warm and welcoming. The aroma of fresh herbs, roasting meats, and simmering stews filled the air, and Sam felt his stomach growl in anticipation. "You're making stew again?" Sam asked, leaning against the doorframe. Lily smiled, her face lighting up. "Yes, I thought it might be nice to have something hearty for dinner." "You've been working hard today." Sam grinned at her, a rare feeling of gratitude creeping into his chest. He had never realized how much he missed someone taking care of him in this way. Lily was making it easy for him to relax, to let go of the weight that had built up over the years. He sat at the kitchen table watching as Lily worked. He couldn't help but notice the small touches that made all the difference. The freshly baked bread sitting on the counter, the neatly arranged vegetables, and the way she hummed softly as she worked. It was clear that Lily took pride in what she did, not just as a job, but as something that brought her joy. Sam couldn't remember the last time he felt like that about anything. "How did you learn to cook like this?" Sam asked. genuinely curious. It wasn't just about the food. It was about her. He wanted to know more about this woman who had somehow found her way into his life. Lily paused for a moment, as if she was carefully choosing her words. She placed the spoon down, wiped her hands on the apron she wore, and then looked at Sam. Well, I grew up on a farm, so cooking was always something I did. My mother taught me, and over the years I just kept improving. There's something about food that brings people together, don't you think? Sam nodded slowly. I never thought much about food being more than just a way to fill up, but I guess I'm starting to understand what you mean. Lily smiled softly, her eyes warm. Food is more than sustenance. It's comfort. It's connection. It's a way to share something of yourself with others. For the first time in years, Sam thought about food in a different way. It wasn't just about survival. It was about something deeper. Something that brought people together, made them feel seen and cared for. Lily had shown him that not just with her cooking, but with her quiet kindness and presence. That evening, as they sat down to eat, Sam realized that he was enjoying more than just the meal. He was enjoying the company, the conversation, the feeling of being seen. For the first time in a long while, he wasn't alone. Over the next few days, their routine continued, and Sam found himself looking forward to the moments when they could share a meal or a conversation. He had started to appreciate the small things, the way Lily would laugh at his jokes, the way she would ask about his childhood, and the way she listened to everything he had to say, no matter how trivial it seemed. It was a kind of attention that Sam wasn't used to, and yet it was exactly what he needed. But Sam still wasn't sure how to handle the feelings that were growing inside him. He had been so focused on his work, on surviving, that he hadn't thought about the possibility of someone else being a part of his life. He had buried his emotions for so long, especially after Emily's death, that it was hard to even begin to consider that he could feel something again. One evening, after dinner, they sat outside on the porch, watching the sun set over the horizon. The sky was painted in shades of pink and orange, and the cool evening breeze carried the scent of wildflowers and fresh grass. Sam took a deep breath, savoring the moment of peace. He wasn't used to feeling so content, but sitting here with Lily felt right, like the world had slowed down just for a moment. "You know," Sam said, breaking the silence, "I never thought I'd find peace again. Not after after everything that happened." Lily turned to look at him, her expression soft and understanding. "I think sometimes peace finds us when we least expect it," she said quietly. "It's not about forgetting the past. It's about finding a way to live with it." Sam looked at her, his heart heavy with emotions he couldn't quite place. He had never been one to talk about his grief or his pain, but there was something about Lily that made it easier to be open. She wasn't just a cook or a helper. She was someone who truly understood, even without saying much. "I guess I've been running from it," Sam admitted, his voice low. "From the pain, from the loneliness. I thought if I just kept working, kept moving forward, I wouldn't have to feel it anymore."
"You can't run from your emotions forever," Lily said gently.
"They'll catch up to you eventually, but you don't have to face them alone." Sam felt something shift inside him at her words. For the first time, he felt the weight of his grief lift, just a little. It wasn't gone, but it didn't feel as suffocating as it had before. Maybe, just maybe, he could let go of the pain and start to heal. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in years, he felt like he was standing on the edge of something new. "Thank you, Lily," he said quietly, "for everything." Lily smiled at him, her eyes warm and full of understanding. "You don't need to thank me, Sam. I'm just glad to be here." And in that moment, Sam realized that Lily had already changed his life in ways he hadn't even expected. She had given him more than just food and company. She had given him hope, and that was something he hadn't had in a long time. The days on the ranch grew warmer as summer began to settle in. The air was filled with the sound of birds chirping and the rustling of leaves in the trees. The ranch, once quiet and still, now seemed full of life. The change wasn't just in the land. It was in Sam, too. Lily had done more than just cook meals and clean the house. She had slowly breathed life into the place, into him. The mornings were still early, but Sam didn't mind waking up anymore. He looked forward to seeing Lily, to having someone to talk to over breakfast. Every morning, the smell of fresh coffee and something delicious on the stove would fill the kitchen. Lily would be there, already awake and busy with her cooking, humming a quiet tune as she worked. Sam had never been much of a morning person, but something about waking up to the smell of home-cooked food and the sound of Lily's voice made him look forward to each new day. One morning, as Sam finished his chores and made his way to the house, he saw Lily standing outside the kitchen door. She was holding a basket in her hands, a big smile on her face. Sam paused for a moment, taking in the sight. The sun was rising behind her, casting a soft glow on her face. She looked like she belonged there, like the ranch was her home, too. "I thought I'd gather some of the wild herbs that grow nearby," Lily said as she walked up to him. "They'll add a nice flavor to tonight's stew, and I thought we could make something special for dessert." "How does apple pie sound?" Sam smiled at the thought of a warm apple pie filling the house. It had been so long since he'd had a dessert that wasn't store-bought. "Apple pie sounds perfect," he said, feeling a sense of gratitude fill him. It was small things like this that made his life feel fuller, even though he had been living alone for so long. As they worked together that day, gathering herbs and preparing the meal, Sam couldn't help but notice how effortlessly Lily had become a part of his routine. She didn't just cook, she made the ranch feel alive again. It wasn't just about the meals or the chores. It was about the way she brought warmth and care into everything she did. But it wasn't just the ranch that was changing. Sam was changing too. He found himself opening up more and more to Lily, talking about things he had never discussed with anyone else, not even Emily. He shared stories of his childhood, of his parents, and of the dreams he had before life had turned out so differently. He told her about the time he had tried to start his own business as a young man, only to fail miserably. He told her about the days when he had first met Emily, about how they had fallen in love so quickly, and about the deep sorrow he had felt after her death. Lily listened, never interrupting, never judging. Her calm presence seemed to bring a sense of peace to Sam, making him feel safe in a way he hadn't felt in years. There were no expectations, no pressure, just a quiet understanding between them. That evening, as the sun set and they sat down to the meal they had prepared together, Sam felt a sense of contentment he hadn't experienced in a long time. The stew was hearty, filled with the flavors of fresh herbs and vegetables, and the apple pie was everything he had hoped for. As they ate, the conversation flowed easily between them, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Sam felt at ease. "You know," Sam said, setting down his fork, "I never thought I'd be sitting here having a meal with someone again. Not like this." Lily looked at him, her expression soft. "It's nice, isn't it?" Sam nodded, his heart swelling with something he hadn't expected. "Yeah, it is. I've been so focused on surviving, on keeping everything together, that I forgot what it was like to actually live, to enjoy the small things." Lily smiled, and there was something in her eyes, a quiet understanding. "I think we all forget that sometimes." Life isn't just about getting through the day. It's about finding joy in the little moments. Sam looked at her, feeling something shift inside him. For so long he had been living in the past, in the shadow of his grief. But now, with Lily's presence, he felt a new sense of hope stirring within him. It wasn't that he had forgotten Emily, or that he didn't miss her, but maybe, just maybe, he could learn to live again. The days continued to pass, and Sam found himself growing closer to Lily. She became more than just someone who worked for him. She became a companion, a friend. They shared quiet moments on the porch, watching the stars, talking about everything and nothing at all. They worked side by side on the ranch, tending to the cattle, fixing fences, and mending the barn. The hard work didn't feel so heavy anymore, not with Lily there beside him. One afternoon after a long day of work, they sat down on the porch, exhausted but content. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden light over the land. Sam leaned back in his chair, closing his eyes for a moment as a gentle breeze swept through the trees. "Lily," Sam said, his voice soft, "do you ever think about what comes next? After everything we've been through?" Lily turned to him, her expression thoughtful. "I think about it sometimes," she said. "I think about what the future holds, but I try not to worry too much about it. I believe that life will unfold as it's meant to, even if it's not how we expect." Sam nodded slowly, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "I used to think I had everything figured out, that I knew what I wanted, what I was supposed to do. But now, I don't know. Things are different now. You've changed everything for me." Lily's gaze softened as she reached out, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "I didn't mean to change anything, Sam. I just wanted to help. I wanted to be here for you and for the ranch." Sam looked at her, his heart full of gratitude. "You've done more than that. You've given me something I didn't even know I needed. You've given me hope." For a moment, there was silence between them, a comfortable quiet that seemed to speak volumes. Sam didn't know what the future would hold, but for the first time in a long time, he felt like he could face it. With Lily by his side, he felt like he wasn't alone anymore. As the stars began to appear in the night sky, Sam made a promise to himself. He would stop living in the past, he would stop running from his pain, and he would embrace the present with all its possibilities. He didn't know where this path would lead, but he was no longer afraid to walk it. With Lily's presence in his life, he felt ready to start again. And as they sat together on the porch under the wide open sky, Sam knew that no matter what came next, he wouldn't have to face it alone. It was a few weeks later when trouble began to stir on the horizon, though Sam didn't know it at the time. The days had been warm, with the promise of summer in the air. The ranch, now filled with life and energy, had become a place of comfort and even hope. Sam had found a rhythm again. He had let go of some of the heavy weight that had held him down for so long, and he had begun to look forward to the future. With Lily by his side, things seemed possible once more. But Sam was about to learn that no matter how hard you try to keep moving forward, the past has a way of catching up with you. It started with the arrival of his cousin, Tom. Sam hadn't seen Tom in years, and when he showed up one bright morning, it was clear that he had come with a purpose. Tom was the kind of man who always had a sharp edge about him. He was the type to show up in a nice, expensive suit, even on a hot summer day, with a look in his eye that suggested he thought the world owed him something. Sam had never liked him much, even back when they were young. Tom always had big ideas, but never the work ethic to back them up. It had always been about easy money, and Sam knew that deep down, Tom was only interested in what he could take. Sam, Tom said as he walked onto the porch, his eyes scanning the place with a critical gaze. It's been a long time. Sam stood up from his chair, wiping his hands on his pants. Yeah, it has. What brings you out here? Tom shrugged, a smug grin spreading across his face. I've been thinking about our family's land. I think it's time I take a more active role in it. Sam furrowed his brow. What are you talking about? Tom stepped forward, his boots clicking against the wooden floor. I've been looking into the deed. I've done some research. And, well, it looks like this ranch, this land, is mine. Not yours. You've had it long enough, Sam. I think it's time we made it official. Sam's heart sank as he processed what his cousin was saying. The land, the ranch, the only home he had left after everything. It was being taken from him. What are you talking about? This land's been in my family for generations. I've worked hard for it. It's mine. Sam's voice grew louder, but he tried to keep calm. His stomach churned and his mind raced. Tom smirked. I know the legal details better than you. I've already spoken to a lawyer. You don't have much of a choice in this. Sam's blood ran cold. The words echoed in his mind like a nightmare coming true. The ranch he had worked so hard to build, the life he had created with Lily, now threatened by someone who didn't care about anything but getting what he wanted. Lily, who had been inside the house, came out onto the porch at that moment. She had been listening, her eyes wide with concern. She had known something was wrong the moment Tom arrived, but hearing his words made it real. Sam hadn't shared much about his family, and Lily had never asked. But now, the truth was clear. Tom wasn't just a relative. He was a threat. Sam, what's going on? Lily asked softly, her voice filled with worry. Tom turned to her, sizing her up with a condescending glance. This doesn't concern you, lady. Lily's eyes narrowed, but she didn't back down. If it concerns Sam, it concerns me. Sam could feel the weight of Tom's words pressing down on him. He couldn't afford to lose the ranch. It wasn't just land to him. It was a symbol of his survival, his independence, the place where he had fought through his grief and learned to live again. Tom was relentless, though.
I'll take this to court if I have to. You'll be lucky to get a small settlement.
This place is mine, Sam. Just accept it and move on. The next few days were a blur of stress, confusion, and frustration. Sam spent hours on the phone with lawyers, trying to figure out how to fight Tom's claims. But it seemed like every legal document he found only made things worse. Tom had done his homework. He had found a loophole, a way to lay claim to the land that Sam couldn't refute. Lily, always calm and supportive, was right there beside him, offering practical solutions. She took the lead in organizing the papers and helping Sam navigate the complex legal maze. She spent hours researching, calling in favors, and even visiting the local town hall to gather information. Sam was amazed at how resourceful she was. "We'll fight this," Lily said firmly one evening, her eyes bright with determination. "You don't have to give up. We can figure this out." Sam, exhausted and emotionally drained, didn't know how to respond. He had always prided himself on handling his own problems, but now, facing the possibility of losing everything, he felt completely overwhelmed. "I don't know, Lily," Sam said, his voice shaking. "I've tried everything I can. This is bigger than me." Lily reached out and placed her hand on his arm, her touch warm and steady. "It's not bigger than you, Sam. We'll face this together. I'm here. You're not alone in this." Sam looked into her eyes, and for the first time in days, he felt a spark of hope. He had been so focused on his own struggles that he hadn't realized how much strength he could draw from those around him. Lily wasn't just helping him, she was fighting for the ranch, for their future, just as much as he was. As the days passed, Tom continued to apply pressure, sending letters and making threats. But Sam and Lily didn't back down. They kept fighting, even when it seemed like there was no way to win. They filed motions in court, gathered evidence, and did everything they could to protect the land Sam had worked so hard for. Finally, the day came when they were scheduled to face Tom in court. The tension in the air was thick, and Sam could barely keep his hands from shaking. He had spent countless hours preparing, but nothing could prepare him for the weight of the moment. Lily was by his side, just as determined and calm as ever. When they entered the courtroom, Sam felt like he was walking into a battle. Tom was sitting at the front, his smug expression unchanged. He had his lawyer with him, a slick-looking man who seemed confident in their victory. The trial was long and drawn out, but Sam and Lily didn't waver. They presented their case, bringing forth evidence and showing how Tom's claim to the land was built on false information. It wasn't easy, and there were moments when Sam felt like everything was slipping away, but Lily's presence kept him grounded. She was his anchor, and together they fought for the ranch that had become so much more than just a piece of land. It was their home, their future, their life. After hours of testimony and arguments, the judge finally made his ruling. Sam's heart pounded in his chest as the judge stood to speak.
After reviewing all the evidence presented, the judge began, I find that the claim made by Mr. Papatoksa,
Tom Blackwood, is invalid. The land in question belongs to Mr. Sam Blackwood, and I rule in favor of the defendant. For a moment, the courtroom was silent. Then, as the weight of the ruling sank in, Sam felt a wave of relief wash over him. They had won. The ranch was safe. His home was safe. Tom stood there, stunned, his face flushed with anger. He had lost. The victory was bittersweet for Sam, but it was a victory nonetheless. As they walked out of the courtroom, Sam felt the burden that had been pressing on his chest for so long begin to lift. Lily was beside him, her hand on his arm. We did it, she said softly, her voice filled with pride. Sam nodded, his eyes bright with emotion. We did. And I couldn't have done it without you. In that moment, Sam realized that Lily wasn't just someone who had helped him save the ranch. She had become his partner, his equal, in every sense of the word. Together they had faced a challenge that seemed impossible, and together they had overcome it. For the first time in a long time, Sam felt truly free. The days following the court case felt like a weight had been lifted off Sam's shoulders. The ranch, once threatened by the looming presence of his cousin Tom, was now safe. Tom's attempts to claim what wasn't his had failed, and Sam had won, not just in court, but in a much more meaningful way. The victory gave Sam more than just his property back. It gave him the chance to truly live again, to start over, to rebuild, and to embrace the life that had felt out of reach for so long. But even as the dust settled from the legal battle, Sam knew that this was only the beginning. The real work was just starting. He looked around the ranch, his home, and saw more than just a piece of land. He saw the future he could build, the life he could share with Lily. And as he walked through the familiar fields and pastures, he realized that he wasn't doing it alone anymore. Lily was there, beside him, in a way that meant something far more than just her helping out with the cooking and chores. Lily had changed his life in ways he hadn't expected. When she first came to the ranch, he had hired her to cook, but what she had done was so much more than that. She had reminded him of what it meant to care for something, to put love into the things he did, and to find joy in small moments. She had brought life back to the ranch, but she had also brought it back to him. She was no longer just someone who worked for him. She was his partner, in every sense of the word. One evening, as the sky turned shades of purple and pink, Sam and Lily sat on the porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The cool breeze swept across the land, rustling the leaves of the trees and carrying with it the fresh scent of the earth. It was the kind of evening that made Sam pause and take in the beauty of the world around him. He didn't need to say much. He just wanted to sit in the silence, to enjoy the peace they had fought so hard for. But Lily broke the silence first, her voice soft but filled with meaning. "Sam, have you thought about what comes next?" she asked, her eyes studying the sky. "Now that the ranch is safe, what do you want to do?" Sam turned to look at her, the weight of her questions sinking in. What came next? He had spent so long in survival mode, focused on getting through each day, that he hadn't allowed himself to think about the future. But now, with the land secure, and with Lily by his side, he realized that the future was no longer a burden. It was something he could shape, something he could dream about. "I don't know," Sam said honestly. "For so long I've been just trying to get by. But now I think I can start to think about what I really want, what we really want." Lily smiled at him, the kind of smile that made Sam's heart flutter. "We'll figure it out, together, one step at a time." For the first time in a long while, Sam felt a sense of peace settle in his chest. They were no longer just surviving. They were living, and they were doing it together. The weeks that followed were filled with new beginnings. Sam and Lily worked together to make the ranch everything it could be. They planted new crops, tended to the animals, and fixed up the barn that had been neglected for so long. It wasn't always easy. The work was hard, and there were still challenges to face. But every task, no matter how small, felt lighter when they shared it. They made decisions together, built plans, and most importantly, supported each other every step of the way. Sam was starting to see the ranch in a new light. It wasn't just about the land. It was about the life they were building. The ranch was no longer a place to hide from the pain of the past. It was a place to create something beautiful. It was a symbol of the new chapter they were writing together. One evening, as they sat in the kitchen after dinner, Lily turned to Sam with a thoughtful look on her face. "Sam, have you ever thought about expanding? Maybe we could take on more land, or even open a small shop in town, something that could bring in some extra income." Sam raised an eyebrow, surprised by the suggestion. "You want to open a shop?" Lily nodded. "Something small, like a farm stand or a cafe. We could sell the things we grow, the produce from the garden, maybe even some of the bread and pies I bake. It could be a way to bring people to the ranch, make it more than just a place to work, and it could give us a little extra money to reinvest into the ranch." Sam thought about it for a moment. He had never considered expanding the ranch beyond just taking care of the animals and crops. But the idea of bringing people to the ranch, sharing what they had worked so hard to build, felt right. It wasn't just about money. It was about connecting with others, about showing people the kind of life they had created here. "You know," Sam said slowly, "I think that's a great idea. It could be a way to share what we've got here with the rest of the world, and I think it could help the ranch grow in more ways than one." Lily's face lit up with excitement. "Really?" Sam smiled, his heart swelling with pride.
"Yeah, we can start small, see how it goes."
"But I think we can make it work." They spent the next few weeks planning their new venture. They started small, setting up a booth in town with homemade pies, fresh vegetables, and flowers from the garden. The response from the townspeople was more than they had hoped for. People were drawn to the fresh, homemade quality of their goods, and the idea of supporting a local ranch made them feel good. As word spread, the booth grew, and eventually, they opened a small cafe on the ranch where people could stop by for a cup of coffee, a slice of pie, and a taste of the simple life Sam and Lily had built together. Business was slow at first, but with each passing month, more people came. The cafe became a hub for the community, a place where people could gather, share stories, and enjoy the fresh homemade food that Lily had become known for. It was exactly what Sam had needed, a way to connect with others, to show the world what they had built. One afternoon as Sam was working outside, he paused for a moment to look around. The ranch, once a symbol of his grief and loss, had become a place of growth and hope. The land was thriving, the animals were healthy, and the cafe was bustling with customers. And, most importantly, Lily was by his side every step of the way. "Hey, Lily," Sam called out to her as she walked toward him. "You know, I never thought I'd be here doing this." Lily smiled as she approached him. "Doing what?" "Living again," Sam said, his voice thick with emotion. "Building something new. Something good." Lily reached out and took his hand.
You've been building something good all along, Sam.
"It just took us both to realize it." Sam looked at her, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over him. He had never imagined that his life could be this full again, that he could find joy after so much loss. But with Lily by his side, he had found more than just a way to survive. He had found a reason to thrive. As the sun set on another day at the ranch, Sam and Lily stood together, watching the sky turn to gold. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time in years, Sam felt ready to face it. He had everything he needed right here: the ranch, the land, the life they had built, and most importantly, Lily. Together they had built something that was more than just a place. It was a home, a future, and a life worth living. And as the stars began to shine in the night sky, Sam knew that no matter what came next, they would face it together.